Eighth grade, welcome to your practice test for 4A. We're finished with a good portion of our lessons to this point in the year, up until lesson 25, I believe, and we should be ready to take on the contents of this cumulative test. Let's get started, and always remember that when we're taking on a practice test like this, it applies directly to the actual other version of the test. So you can see that we've taken a test in Form A and Form B. Both of those are going to pertain to each other. So the answers on here aren't going to be the same as the answers on Form B for this test, but they will have the same type of problem and we'll use the same type of strategy to solve it. So if you know how to solve the problem by strategy, you should be able to reapply that and show me your learning. Let's get into it. Number one says, write C increased by 5 as an algebraic expression. The term increased by is going to point us to addition as our operation, so C increased by 5, C plus 5. Number 2, evaluate negative x minus y in parentheses minus in parentheses x plus y for x equals 3 and y equals 2. Anytime it says evaluate, we're going to plug those values in, and when we plug them in, we can then solve with a numeric expression after they're already in. So every time I have an x value, I am going to plug in a 3. I'll just rewrite this. This is negative 3 minus, every time I have a y value, a 2. Both of those were in parentheses, minus here in parentheses 3 for x plus 2 for y. Now if I go through and I'm working to solve this, I have to use order of operations, so I'm going to solve by first starting with in my parentheses. I've got negative 3 minus 2. Now they're the same sign, so I'm going to add those up. Negative 3 minus 2, or 3 plus 2, is going to give me 5. Keep the same sign, negative 5. I have a minus sign as my operation in between, and 3 plus 2 is 5. So I get negative 5 minus 5. Same sign again. 5 plus 5 is going to give me 10. Keep the same sign. Negative 10 is my answer. Number 3 asks us again to evaluate and plug in the letter values for the numbers that they represent. So you've got a times b plus a times b times c for a equals negative 2, b equals 2, and c equals negative 3. First thing I need to do is rewrite the expression in terms of those variables. So for the a, it's negative 2 times b positive negative 2 times b positive 2 times c, which is negative 3. Now order of operations, you can solve from left to right, it's all the same operation. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 times negative 3. Two negatives are going to make a positive. That's going to be a positive 12. 4 times 3 is 12. Here you're going to have negative 4 and positive 12. Different, subtract. 12 minus 4 is 8. Number 4, graph the ordered pair negative 2 on the coordinate plane. Now remember here, this little hint tells you a little bit about how to solve the problem. In this case, the x-coordinate indicates the distance left or right of the origin. The y-coordinate indicates the distance above or below the horizontal axis. So we start here at the origin, which is 0, 0, and the x-coordinate, the first coordinate, tells us to move right or left. Positive if it's right, negative if it's left. It says negative 2, so I'm going over 1, 2, and then the second number is negative 2 as well, so that's my y-axis, and it's going down if it's negative 1, 2. There's my point. Number 5. Asks us to simplify the expression negative 3x minus, in parentheses, negative 2x plus 4x. Combine like terms. When I'm combining like terms, in this case, I want to make sure that I put my positives together, my negatives together, and then I can combine the total of those terms. So in this case, I've got negative 3x minus negative 2x. So now I want to change this to a positive because two negatives put together is the same as adding the opposite. And now I'm going to say, well, I've got 2 and 4, and they're both positive. Negative 3 is going to be different because it's negative. So here I would start with 2 plus 4x is going to be 6x, and then I'll rewrite so that there's a second part of the problem here. Negative 3x plus 6x, different sign, different, subtract. 6 minus 3 is going to give me 3x. Write that in as my answer in that answer line. Number 6 asks us to simplify the expression 2 times x squared minus 3y squared minus 4x squared plus 6y squared. It asks us in this hint to rearrange the terms, and then by doing so we can add those like terms together. So we want to make sure that we have the x's together. We want to make sure that we have the y's together. I'm going to use this little shape method in which I circle and square the like terms so that I can put those together in the same order. And you'll notice that I have kept the operation that's in front of each of those terms in those locations. The first one was 2x squared, and then it's minus 4x squared plus 6y squared minus 3y squared. Now you can combine your x squareds and your y squareds as the like terms. You'd have 2 minus 4, which is going to give you a negative 2. And you've got 6 minus 3, which is going to give you a positive 3. Number 7, simplify the expression negative 3 times in parentheses x minus 3. We're using our distributive property, in which we're distributing that negative 3 to both of these terms on the inside. Whatever's on the outside, we multiply what's on the inside. In this case, you're going to multiply negative 3 times x, negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 3. Two negatives are going to make a positive. 3 times 3 then is 9. Number 8, simplify the expression negative 3 times negative 8. Same sign, the product or quotient is positive. 3 times 8 gives you 24. It's positive because two negatives make a positive. Number 9, simplify negative 2.86 plus negative 3.24 minus 4.71 plus 6.62. Now here again, the hint is to group the terms with like signs. So I'm going to put the positive numbers together and the negative numbers together. Here's my positive, and then all three of these are negative. Now to add those up, you're simply going to stack those in a traditional addition method. And do some addition, knowing that all three of those are going to give us a negative answer. So you've got 4 plus 6 is 10, and 1 is 11. Carry the 1. 1 and 7 is 8, and 2 is 10, and 8 is 18. Bring down the 8, carry the 1. 1 and 4 is 5, and 3 is 8, and 2 is 10. And the decimal stays in that location, and now that is a negative number. So now if I would rewrite this, I'd have positive 6.62 and a negative 10.81. Now to subtract that, I'm going to take the absolute value and do my subtraction. 10.81 minus 6.62 and borrow where I need to. Here the 1 and 2 can't subtract. I borrow from the 8 turns into a 7. 1 turns into an 11. 11 minus 2 is 9. 7 minus 6 is 1. And 10 minus 6 is 4. Now it's negative because the negative number was larger in terms of the absolute value. Negative 4.19. Number 10. Simplify 3 plus 2 in brackets, in parentheses, 5 plus 3 squared minus 6. Use PEMDAS, which is, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, our order of operations. Inside of our brackets is where we're going to get started first. So if we look inside of our brackets and break it down, we've got another set of parentheses. We have to do this innermost portion first. You'd have 5 plus 3, which would give you 8. That 8 is going to stay in parentheses and be squared. 8 times 8 fell on the floor. Up pop number 64, and then next to 64 you've got minus 6. All of this, which would still be within our brackets. So I did the parentheses, then exponents. Now I still have another set of parentheses technically with the brackets here to say what is 64 minus 6. That's going to give me a total of 58 inside those brackets. Now I have a 2 that's multiplied on the outside and then 3 added to that. So in this case I've got 2 times 58. 58 times 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. You get 116. And I'm going to add 3 to that. Plus 3 gives me a total of 119. Show your work. Works out just like that. And I'm going to write that in my answer spot right here. That's the front page. Let's get to the back. Onto the back side, number 11. A falcon flies at a speed of 114,400 yards per hour. How fast does the falcon fly in miles per hour? Here the hint that it gives us is the actual conversion rate between miles and yards. It says a mile is equal to 1,760 yards. So you have the initial yardage that's given, and you need to change that from yards per hour to miles per hour. So you want to have a conversion rate that is miles in yards. So that's giving us right here 1,760 miles per hour. You would plug that into this location, 1,760 over 1 mile. And now you're going to multiply your numerators by your numerator and your denominator by your denominator to get that conversion, which is basically going to turn into a division problem of how many miles or how many yards 1,760 go into 114,400 yards. Now 114,400 divided by 1,760 gives us a total of 65. That is, in the terms that they're asking us, miles per hour. Number 12, tell whether x equals 4 is a solution for the equation x plus 4 equals 9. If I plugged in 4 for x here, 4 plus 4 equals 9, that does not equal, so we would say x equals 4 is not the solution for the equation. We want our equations to be true, therefore having that equal sign makes sense. That is not an answer to that equation. 13, solve y minus 3 equals 10. Use the inverse operation to isolate the variable. That means get the variable by itself to isolate. So I have to do the opposite or inverse operation. I've got minus 3 here. The opposite of minus 3 would be plus 3. To plus 3 to one side would cancel this out, but then I have to do it to the other side. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. To plus 3 to this side, 10 plus 3 then would be y equals 13. Sorry about that. Number 14. Determine whether the set of a whole number is closed under subtraction. If the statement is false, give a counterexample. To say that a set is closed is to say that if you're using that operation, you begin with a whole number, you use the operation, and you end with a whole number. So anything, a whole number subtracted by a whole number is going to give you another whole number. Now, this can be tricky sometimes, but you have to kind of think outside the box to say, can I prove this wrong? Is any number subtracted by another number not going to be a whole number? For example, if I take a smaller number and subtract a larger number, so 2 minus 5 gives me negative 3. Well, negative 3 isn't a whole number, that's an integer, so this statement is false. It says if it's false, give a counterexample we just did by that type of thinking. 2 minus 5 equals negative 3. Find the sum for number 15. You've got negative 6 plus negative 5. Same sign sum, add those up, keep the same sign. 6 plus 5 is 11, and keep the same sign. 16. Compare the expression below using less than, greater than, or equal to. You've got the square root of 16, the square root of 49, the square root of 25, and the square root of 36 are all perfect squares, so we should simplify each of those. Here the square root of 16 is 4, square root of 49 is 7. Those are added together. What is 4 plus 7? 4 plus 7 is 11. Square root of 25 is 5, square root of 36 is 6, 5 plus 6 is 11. Those two things are equal to each other. Number 17. 17 says there are 1 blue, 9 red, and 2 yellow marbles in a bag. What's the probability of randomly choosing a red marble? Well, when we're talking probability, we need to figure out the total number of marbles first. So you'd add them up. 1 plus 9 plus 2 is a total of 12. Therefore, 12 is going to be in our denominator as you're comparing the desired outcome to the total number of outcomes. The probability of choosing a red marble would then be to select how many red that you have. You've got 9 out of those 12. Now, in these two spaces, it's asking you to turn that fraction of probability into a decimal and into a percent. Let's change a fraction into a decimal to a percent. You would want to first reduce this. 9/12 is actually equal to, if you divide both by 3, 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. You get 3/4. Now, if you know 3/4 as a decimal, if you divide it by 3 by 4, you get 0.75, and then multiply by 100, move that decimal place over, is going to give you a total of 75%. Number 18, use words to write the algebraic expression m minus 9 in 2 different ways. Here in this first one, you're going to plug in the numbers and the variables that it gives you. So m less than 9 would be a good way to say that. Another way to say m minus 9 would be to write it out as if it is the operation that's being used. The difference between m and 9. Difference is a way in which you're going to refer to a subtraction problem. Number 19, if a softball player has 8 hits and 25 at-bats, what's the probability she would get a hit in the next at-bat? Express your answer as a decimal to the thousandths place. When we're talking about probability, again, we have to think about the total. That's going to be in our denominator, so 25 is the total number of at-bats she's had. She was successful on 8 of those, so her probability turns into 8 over 25. Now, to figure out the actual decimal probability, you have to divide this. So you say, what is 8 divided by 25, which changes this into a rather lengthy decimal, and you rewrite it in this form or use your calculator to figure what is 8 out of 25. In this case, if you're using long division, it might take a little bit longer. 8 divided by 25 25 goes into 80 3 times. 25 times 3 is 75. You subtract that, you get 5, bring the 0 down. 25 goes into 50 2 times, and if I need that third decimal place, 0.320, or 320 as for batting average. Number 20 says complete the table for the equation y equals 2x plus 4. Anytime I have this x value, I then plug it into the actual equation to solve. Here I would plug in negative 2. Now 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, plus 4 gives me an answer of 0, so that checks out. And plug in 0. 0 times 2, anything times 2 is 0. So you have plus 4, that's going to be a positive 4 for your y value. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 4 is 8. 1/2 times 2, those are going to cancel out and be 1, plus 4 is 5. That's your practice test. Hopefully you took in how you're going to go about solving those with the different strategies that Mr. Shane used. And then from those different strategies, just the way in which he solved the problem, you can apply to a very similar problem on test 4B for tomorrow. God's blessings.